straight suction cleaners such as this run-of-the-mill, very boring Beko 1987 here are very good. Obviously they're very common and etc. But what if there was another way? What if we take our fantastic creation from the first video and try and mate it somehow with the Beko 1987? Let's give that a go now. Yes, hello my vacuum cleaner chums. How are you today? Welcome to the second episode of the Bodgy Fabulous Homemade Power Nozzle, and welcome to the reason why I wanted it, because this machine was coming up done. Now the first bit of this is really very simple. We unwind the cable. As we know, this works. We don't need to care. What we now need to do is to get rid of Beko 1987. As I'm sure many people will take off the frankly pathetic straight suction floor tool and we'll plug in the wand. Now this is where it's going to be a little bit, permanent, some might say. What we're going to do is get some cable ties, and again you can substitute Velcro ties. You can substitute actual wand clips for solution tube hosings. For wet and dry vacuums, I'm going to go for the quick and dirty approach for this video. Certainly. And I'm basically just going to put this all the way to the end of the hose. And before long you have yourself a very decent powered hose, looking just like you're about to shampoo the carpet with some dodgy flipping contraption. But of course there is, well, I say a slight problem. And again, from here, if you were, I don't think I go to all the effort of cable tying it to do this, but plug it into the wall and spin goes to head. But I want to plug it in at the vacuum. I want to plug it into the original power socket, and there are a few ways to do this. I have pondered it greatly. Behind that power socket is basically two large female spade terminals. So, if you kept your ends nice and insulated into a nice sealed crimp of the appropriate size male bullet, you could just plug one end in and do that. You could buy one of those Numatics that has a 30 amp plug on the side. Or you could have a scrap Nilco combi, which has been kicking around for far too long, and you could have a flash of inspiration when you go out into the garden and realise that that plug hanging off the back of it looks very familiar. This is the main spinal cable for the Nilco combi. It plugs in to the bag housing and runs off underneath to the actual main motor. And do you know what? It is the perfect fit indeed for our Numatic. Fits either way, looks a bit better the first way I had, and yeah, fits an absolute treat. So I'm going to get some sellotape now and chop off this Dyson plug and solder on this other plug so that we can, experience what this is really like. And eventually you have something which looks like this, which I'm calling production sample number 2. The first production sample had a 3-pin plug in it. This one, it looks taped, and that's because it is taped, but they are soldered and heat shrunk inside. It's just temporary. I have things bought already, but it's not arrived in time to film this specific video. So it's hardwired for now. I've left a little bit of slack just because you know, I want to tidy it up later. So this is a working production sample. So for probably the first time in his entire life, Mr. Becco 1987 has something plugged into his rear end, which is a turn up. And I think we best see just what this thing that, oh, it doesn't stand up. It's used to click up. Maybe I've broken it. Who knows? The production sample is done and ready for some action. Alright guys, so this is the next day. It got far too late to film yesterday, so I thought, no, we'll leave it and do it this morning. And here we are. We'll start with possibly the most unforgiving surface, my rug. This head wasn't very good on it when it's on an air evolve, let alone now it's on a Numatic. But, oh yes. Yeah, this rug hates it. It skips and bounces. I'm actually wondering if I do need to strip and refurb it, because the bottom is looking a little bit pasty. So yeah, that's the most unforgiving carpet, because I want to take it up to put the next one down. So I want to carry on cleaning and at least get my rug clean. Oh, it feels so powerful, but it needs a carpet it can work well on. So, on to the next one when I've carried on doing my housework. On to a altogether more forgiving pile of carpet. My thin, dense, orange 1980s. So actually, not, you know, wouldn't be too far removed from this. In fact, this is the sort of carpet that these in straight suction mode are really good at. This is just sawdust. I've scuffed it in. It's why I'm still wearing my flip-flops, so it doesn't stick to my socks. So we're going to see how easily it picked it out the pile, because if we just had the straight suction head, it would take a few passes. But with our creation, we get, as Mr. Ibasiak would say, an okay line, but yes, there's still lots clinging on. It's not even really coming off with my fingers. And that's again where you need a good turbo head. You would expect to have to do a few passes, but when you do, it's absolutely fabulous. It really is very good. Yes, I've left a bit there and I'm going to add a bit more for the close-up shot. Hang on. pretty fabulous. I'm sure you'll agree. What about a deeper pile though? Well, I have my very plush pile. Happy Carpets bonus bargain special. Oh my goodness, the hose has just kinked, and that's catastrophic because it's going to twist the cable with it. With again sawdust pushed right in as much as we can. Oh. Wow, that was interestingly amazing. I had to open the bleed valve. I don't know if you saw, but it was starting to snowplow right at the very beginning. So I opened the bleed valve, which unclamped the head from the carpet, and I don't know what it looks like on the camera, but it's lovely. So the Beko 1987 has had a workout. This is perhaps time to think of some of the drawbacks of this amazing system, and this is one of them. Flex, especially when you're using vacuums that you can't keep the cord wound in, but you probably shouldn't keep the cord wound in if you're doing this. And obviously this is also pulling 240 volts. I mean, I think it's 120 watts, and this machine's 800, so you've got to, most vacuum cleaners will be able to take it, but I still wouldn't keep the cable wound up because it would be drawing more amps than usual. So as much as this isn't actually a video about the Beko 1987, I've got to have a look at the bag, because we have a paper bag in here with there's a little bit of dust, but yeah, you took it well. It's just that fine film of dust in there. But you know what, that's fine. I haven't used a paper bag in ages in a Numatic. I'm sure that when my HEPA flows come, I'll be putting one of those in here anyway. So, farewell you. This, being design prototype 1, I think it's a pass, don't you? Obviously it needs to be on the right style of carpet, I suppose. That is a limitation of the floor head. I'm going to give it a clean as well, because I think it is sticking a little bit. And all the wands being stuck together on this kit actually isn't a problem, because this adds a fair bit of height as it is. So I'm actually going to leave that. Cable fixing system, I'm going to see if you can buy the hose clips. I'm not just buying random solution tube kits to get the clips, unless that's the cheapest way. But for now, I've got thousands of cable ties. I don't mind, taking it on and off as needed. As for this end, so this is still a work in progress, because in part 3 we are going to investigate how to make this quick change Powerhead system for other vacuum cleaners. So stay tuned for now. This was really just so I could have a play. I've never used a Numatic with anything plugged into that socket before, and I think we've done that well. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Please stay tuned for part 3, where that might take a bit longer because I've got to get a fair few more bits together. But hey, it is fun. I can now play with this. That'll do. Again, one thing I would recommend, especially if you're doing it to a Numatic, which is probably going to be a very common, imagine this on one of those triple or twin motored WVD machines. That would probably be 35mm without that. Just a thought. What was I saying? Yes, I would get another hose. I was up at the desk just now thinking, oh, I could get the dusting brush out, and I can't because I would have to literally cut every cable tie, take everything off. So if you've been doing this for a Numatic, and actually the long hose isn't too bad for this, I'd make yourself up a kit. You can use scrappy ones, and then you can just have it always there and still use your Henry or your Numatic or your Beko for its intended straight suction purpose. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I and this will see you soon. Bye bye.